So there are three primary sub-requirements here. First one is to restrict access to data by business need to know. So there are many parts, as you'll know, in your systems where there are lots of pieces of data. Does every user really need to be able to see every piece of data that's there? And that's probably particularly true around payment data and card data. We've had some very high-profile embarrassments with maybe celebrities' card information being published in the press, but obviously it's more significant than that when it comes to fraud. So to address this, there is also the Oracle Label Security product. Now this is, again, not rocket science. It's an implementation of the virtual private database feature that James talked about earlier. However, what this lets you do is to give you data separation and data security without having to resort to coding. It gives you this row-level security controls, the ability through 3 levels to actually match data labels to access labels. It's also, like a number of these products we're talking about here, it is not just something that we've come up with and say, oh, isn't this great? This is externally certified. Certified to EAL4, this is some of the common criteria, external security validation that the security services around the world actually look for. And label security fits into that field. So that would actually, label security would help you in terms of end users and through the application, restricting what people can see. But what about your developers? Do you actually have offshore development? How do you actually, and are you actually like most organizations where, oh, we need some decent test data, oh, here's a copy of live. You can't do that if there are credit card information there or other information that can identify people. And that becomes a major challenge for organizations. It can significantly impact your ability to react and respond to what you need to do in terms of software development and software fixes. So we have introduced quite recently a new product by the name of Data Masking Pack, and it's the idea of having you the ability to de-identify sensitive data. So you can actually take your you can still take copies of your live database. However, you can have you have the ability to actually define policies that a credit card number, it can go to a test system, it can still be a valid credit card number, it goes to the credit card checksum, but it's not the real one and it's not associated with that person. Rules that are consistent and you can are repeatable as well, potentially. And as well, it's not, obviously there's things you can do yourself, but this actually does also allow for dependencies and tracking all those sorts of things as well. So that addresses the users, your developers, but what about your DBAs? Again, very highly authorized users, and we've had some interesting incidents with highly privileged system administrators recently. I don't know if you recall seeing the guy in San Francisco that decided to got upset with his employers in the local authority there and decided to change all of the sysadmin passwords and then wouldn't tell them what they were. And it crippled the city's systems for a number of weeks until he was forced to do it by the courts. If you can imagine somebody with those privileges around your credit card information and with a grudge or a need to make some money, then you definitely need to actually keep people of those privileges away from the data. And PCI DSS insists that you do that. So with Database Vault, it provides that capability where you can actually define, by separation of duties, reduce your risks. So the highly privileged DBA that is doing all of the maintenance and management only gets privileges to do what he needs to do, has no privileges to the data where the data that is potentially at risk for you. Again, and this is going towards EAL4 security. So that looks at, again, the data side of things and how we can secure that, but it's also about identity as well. One significant requirement in PCI is that it explicitly excludes the use of shared or generic accounts. Now, I know when I go out and talk to customers, but mostly shamefacedly, I hope, and generally is, they will admit that, yes, their systems still have this sort of access in there. It's never been good practice, but there has always been good reasons for doing it. However, PCI is now clamping down and saying, no, you cannot do it. It has always been seen, though, why have we done this? Well, it was hard to do anything else. But it doesn't have to be. Again, with Oracle, we have this concept of enterprise users. You don't have to define your users in every database they have access to. Define them once in your LDAP directory, and you assign them to those different systems. You can then use they then have those individual controls there. Once you've actually done that, of course, you actually have identity, it opens up a whole range of features that you can use to protect yourself. Whilst using these shared accounts, that's very difficult to do unless you do it in code that you then need to maintain and prove to PCI is appropriate. If you actually can identify users at the database level, then you can actually start using the things we've been talking about, virtual private database, label security, the fine-grained auditing capabilities. That opens that up. And also the identity extends go beyond the database, and so do the PCI requirements. You also need to be able to identify everybody coming onto your network. And obviously we have a whole range of products at Oracle now around this area in the access identity management space. That would take another seminar to go to in any detail, but it does cover the ability to manage identities and manage access across all channels, and we can help there as well. So that I shall pass back to James to take us through to the end.
Thank you. Clearly one of the keys to all of these solutions, just like any compliance and security initiative, is that once you've done a large amount of protecting your systems and blocking down potential unauthorized access, you've actually got to track and monitor. So there's clearly going to be an element for it. So the first thing is actually being able to fulfill this requirement to track and monitor all access to network resources, and especially cardholder data, whether that access was successful or not. So there's lots of ways we can audit information, but clearly in something like PCI or a general compliance program, we're going to be generating audit data from many sources, databases, perhaps multiple databases, or really not just Oracle databases, etc. And what we'd like to be able to do is consolidate that audit information into a single place so we can appropriately use it. We can detect suspicious activity. So we're not trying to shut the stable door after the horse is bolted. We're trying to detect it as unauthorized access happens or suspicious activity happens and respond to it immediately. So we're moving audit information to being reactive to proactive. And that's what Oracle Audit Log does. Now, one of the key things that Audit Log is a secure audit warehouse. And that's another of the requirements of PCI, is that you don't just create this audit information and then let anybody get access to it and anybody can change it, but you secure the audit data away. You have true non-repudiation of the audit trail. And that's what Audit Log provides. We can securely move the audit data from the places where it's generated into this warehouse, secure it inside that warehouse, both through encryption technologies and through appropriate segregation of duties, using many of the tools we've just been talking about. And then we can provide pre-can compliance reports that solve things like PCI, but also Sarbanes-Oxley issues. And also we can move to having that activity monitored proactively, picking up things that are of interest and generating these alerts that we can then actually respond to and appropriately take action. Requirement 11 is that we actually regularly test these security procedures. Now, in many customers I talk to, we talk about vulnerability testing, penetration testing, and the automated tools that allow that. What Oracle have got inside our product stack is what we call configuration change tracking. It's another portion of that configuration management console we were talking about earlier. This doesn't in any way, shape,